big Singapore hello to everyone from the Dyslexia Association of Singapore. I'm Geetha Shantha, the Director of the SpLD Assessment Service, English Language and Literacy Division and Staff Professional Development Division. A few words about the DAS. It's a vibrant organization with over 300 staff who provide a wide array of services for people with dyslexia, not only in Singapore but also in the region. And next year, we'll be celebrating our 30th year. At DAS, we have a multidisciplinary panel of professionals working closely with the Singapore government and other stakeholders. DAS specialist psychologists conduct assessments for preschool students all the way up to adults. DAS educational therapists and speech and language therapists provide support for over 3,500 pre-primary, primary, secondary school students in 14 centres all over Singapore. While the DAS witnessed many global and local challenges over the years, 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic presented us with the extreme polarities of challenges and opportunity. Many months after COVID-19 first reached Singapore shores, we were able to reflect on some of the solutions we implemented at DAS and what this means for our future efforts. In February, with the imminent likelihood of a lockdown looming, DAS embarked on curriculum and resource development and implementation strategies in preparation for online teaching. As daunting as it was to transfer over 3,000 students to entirely online lessons, it was clear that not being ready for it meant that our students could not receive the much-needed intervention until the lockdown was over. Curriculum development efforts to translate our current curriculum to an online one and the creation of take-home lesson packs for students who were not able to attend online classes took a considerable amount of time. We also considered that students may benefit from additional lessons at the end of the school term, so online supplementary lessons and make-up lessons were developed to support larger groups of students from different classes. In view of resource development, we were fortunate as the EdTech team had previously published a repository of suitable applications and software for our students, but more had to be done. For instance, the EdTech team started familiarization efforts with parents, students, and teachers on the use of Google Meet as a platform for online learning. They sent out daily emails on new applications and solutions. They set up a Google site with more applications related to specific aspects of the curriculum. And they were hard at work digitalizing our own curriculum and resource packs. These efforts were incredibly important as educational therapists could rely on these to translate their familiar lessons into the new world of online specialist intervention. Implementation strategies were also required. While the traditional use of manipulatives and guiding students with their lessons were no longer possible, alternatives to physical manipulatives were shared. Phoneme segmentation, for instance, was done using label pieces found in students' homes. Online alternatives such as customizable Google templates were also developed and shared. Preschool students in particular needed additional guidance both in the use of the online platform and ways to facilitate their own learning. Parents were roped in and students were guided through whatever they had available to them, from sweets to small tokens. Undeniably a unique experience for everyone involved. Unconventional as it may seem, even speech and drama classes were conducted online with maximum attention paid to ensure a level of interactivity. Besides intervention, the assessment service conducted their parent interviews and assessment conclusion briefing sessions through Zoom and Google Meet. But we all know that teachers are at the heart of any good, sound support system, and during these unprecedented times, our teachers do not let their students and their parents down. Setting aside their own insecurities, they traversed through these challenges and I must say, prevailed. Teachers proved to be a resilient and innovative group, and it was heartening to see parents, schools, and organizations coming together to support our teachers. Online resources and suggestions on how to conduct lessons poured in from all over the world, and international organizations banded together, and suddenly the internet became one large teacher support forum. Organizations like DAS worked around the clock and at breakneck speed to avail professional development for teachers. At the DAS, we quickly set in place daily tips through emails, center sharing groups were formed, and online tools and apps were reviewed and shared with suggestions for usage. As a first, a new batch of psychologists were trained entirely online. Trainee educational therapists were mentored via Google Meet, and lesson observations were done online as well. Perhaps most importantly, emotional support groups for staff were also formed to ensure that the well-being of our staff was not overlooked in the frenzy to secure suitable interventions for our learners. And as early as February, almost a month before the lockdown, parents were included in familiarization efforts to acquaint them with the platform and accessibility requirements. Through multiple Sources such as letters, online videos, phone support, and computerized parent orientation efforts, these were put in place to ensure that parents would be confident and comfortable with the continuation of support via home-based learning for their children. Parent workshops too continued, and DS Academy, a subsidiary of DAS, which provides training for parents and professionals, offered their workshops and courses as online training too. This new normal was particularly troubling to a vulnerable group of students, those from low-income households. While the Ministry of Education in Singapore loaned over 3,300 devices to students who didn't have laptops or computers, and continued to see children whose parents are essential workers in school, we discovered that there were several DS students who either lacked the devices or internet access to receive their lessons. Perhaps this is not surprising, as over 50% of the students attending lessons at DAS receive financial aid. Reaching out to other voluntary organizations and corporate donors, we were able to provide over 100 laptops and data plans so that their learning remains uninterrupted. DS has always been active in raising awareness and engaging our community with multiple events over the year. In 2020, our events went virtual. So starting off with the preschool seminar in March to the student graduation events at the end of the year, we converted all our events into virtual ones. We are proud to say that COVID-19 didn't stop us or slow us down. It just made us explore other options, and often with pleasant outcomes. Our annual conference, Unite SpLD 2020, saw many key speakers: Dr. Mok Joshi, Dr. Julie Washington, Dr. Fintan O'Regan, and Carol Allen, joined presenters from Australia, China, India, Indonesia, America, England, and Singapore. They shared from their own homes to over 400 local and international participants. Our most recent series of events in conjunction with the World Dyslexia Awareness Week was also hugely successful, with the international panel in particular receiving over 1,500 views on Facebook. Initially, we had doubts, and many teachers and parents alike were concerned about the outcome of supporting learners with special needs through online lessons. It really wasn't the norm. And while we knew that the technology is available to facilitate learning, there was still doubt on whether we could effectively support our learners through an entirely online lesson. Many of us who considered ourselves experts in supporting learners with learning differences suddenly felt like novices, given the changes and challenges that were forced upon us. And all our efforts appear to have paid off. Teachers feel a lot more confident and have found a renewed excitement in the use of technology for teaching and learning. DS educational therapists received many compliments from parents and students alike, and we saw a higher than usual lesson attendance. All of these serve as much needed encouragement during these trying times. And while we remain hopeful that the pandemic will come to an end soon, our work continues as we strive to support our teachers and better ourselves and the lives of those dealing with learning differences. And so COVID-19, with all the challenges and grief it has brought to people all over the world, proved that sometimes acts of creation begin with acts of destruction. The changes that were forced upon us also meant that parents were able to observe intervention, which brought about a greater appreciation of the efforts of the interventionists and the quality of the lessons. A closer connection between some parents and their children was also seen. For instance, one student was beaming with pride when he successfully spelled his words with his father watching impressed. We also witnessed the resilience of our students in managing the new lessons and how adaptable they can be to change. And yet, those who struggled then triggered the necessary support to enable students to work on strategies to manage change better. But it's undeniable that work must continue for us at DAS. Owing to the lockdown and safe management measures, the waitlist of students awaiting access to intervention and assessment services continues to be significant, and we are doing everything we can to minimize the delay in supporting them. Our usual mass screening efforts, for example, are no longer possible, so decentralization of these efforts and establishing new practices were required. Classroom spaces have been converted to ensure safe physical distancing, and timetabling has evolved to ensure the safe movement of students within our learning center. Some students still prefer to learn online, and we've adopted a hybrid approach to our instruction, where those who prefer online instruction continue online, while the others have returned to face-to-face instruction. COVID-19 also revealed true inequity in Singapore. There were so many instances of students having no devices or sharing one device with their siblings, which compromised their learning. In a country as technologically advanced as Singapore, it's easy to forget that several families still don't have Wi-Fi and internet facilities. Gathering support for such families must continue, and we have been encouraged by the support we've so far received from companies who have donated funds, laptops, Wi-Fi access, and hand sanitizers, just to name a few. My colleagues at DAS were thrown into unparalleled chaos. But the key message for us is one of triumph. Singapore's most treasured resource is its people, and at DAS we wholeheartedly agree. In interviewing students for their graduation this year, a common message by nearly all students was the level of care their teachers had for them in guiding them with online lessons, taking pains to ease any discomfort they might be feeling, and in preparing lessons that were entertaining, enjoyable, and educational. We acknowledge the perseverance of DAS colleagues, and we celebrate them for pushing through the conflicts, doubts, and unknowns to perform their roles with empathy and dedication. And as we stand united against the pandemic, we recognize that we are all stronger than we once believed, a strength we firmly trust will transfer to our students with dyslexia as they continue on their journey towards success and self-fulfillment. On behalf of the DAS, this is Geetha. Thank you very much.